How are you guys doing? Today is Saturday, July 16th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an elite individual profile for Aroldis Chapman, the elite Cuban relief pitcher for the New York Yankees. Is already 34. I initially made one for his birthday, but I think it got lost while I kind of fell behind. But I think the good thing about it being midseason is that we actually have a little bit of a season to work with as I give you a snapshot of where Aroldis Chapman is in his career right now. I did not have a profile for him last year, as of course him making the All-Star game in 2021 is what of course launched himself back into that conversation. As many people are still aware, he's regarded by his peers, by his fans and by his critics alike as one of the elite pitchers in baseball. If you're not familiar with him, he's the pitcher that is known for having the fastest pitch in baseball. He's thrown a ball 105 miles per hour, and I think he did it like in his early seasons with Cincinnati. He is a player that's won a gold medal in the Pan American Games representing Cuba. He's won a silver medal at the Baseball World Cup in Taipei in 2007. As of right now in the MLB, with his incredibly, I guess with his potent arm, the fact that nobody can hit off of a pitch that fast. He is a 7-time All-Star in this league. He's won a World Series title, as he only spent half a season with that team. He's been named to an All-MLB team. He's been named a reliever of the year. And so far, he has over 300 saves to his name, something that I would imagine every reliever that enters the MLB strives for at some point in his career, even the people that cross that threshold. With that said, I'm going to get into the career of Aroldis Chapman, originally coming from Cuba. He would go on to put together a few innings before defecting and joining the Cincinnati Reds. He would go on to make his MLB debut in his age 22 season in 2010. In that season, he would go on to make 15 appearances in a season in which the Cincinnati Reds would end up going 91-71. They would win the National League Central. For context, this is the year in which Joey Votto would win the MVP. In his first season in Cincinnati, he would go on to finish with a 2-2 record as a relief pitcher. He would put together a 2.03 ERA in the 13 innings that he pitched. He would allow 9 hits, which is 4 less hits than innings pitched, as he would strike out 19. That is 6 more strikeouts than innings pitched on the year. As he finished 3 games he would go on to finish 3 games as well. The Cincinnati Reds that season would go on to the playoffs and lose in the first round in the division series to the Philadelphia Phillies. And of course, for context, it would be the San Francisco Giants that came out of the World Series this year they came out of the National League as they won the World Series this year. This would, of course, transition into Aroldis Chapman's second year with the Reds. In his age 23 season in the MLB, after coming from Cuba, he would go on to make 54 appearances, finishing 13 in a season in which the Cincinnati Reds would go 79-83. They would finish with 12 less wins than the prior year, as they would miss out on the playoffs. However, in this year, with more responsibility, Aroldis Chapman would pitch 50 innings, which would be about quadruple what he put together in his first year. He would allow 24 hits in the 50 innings that he pitched, as he would strike out 71. He had 26 less hits than innings pitched, as he had 21 more strikeouts than innings pitched, just to give you a sense of what he was doing per inning. He would finish with a 3.60 ERA, as he would put together a 4-1 record. And even though the Cincinnati Reds team would end up missing the playoffs, they would see Aroldis Chapman really kind of grow into an amazing talent of his own. His third season at Cincinnati would be the season that bore fruit. I guess, bore fruit. He would go on to make 68 game appearances, finishing 14 in a season in which the Cincinnati Reds would go on and finish with a 97-65 record. They would go on to win the NL Central for the second time in a 3-year span. The Reds, as an organization, have not won the National League Central since this 2012 season, which was Aroldis Chapman's first all-star season. He would go on to finish 12th in MVP voting and 8th in Cy Young voting in a season in which the Cy Young will go to David Price of the Tampa Bay Rays. In his first all-star season, Chapman would go on to he would pitch 71 innings in the 68 games he played. He would finish with 38 saves after he recorded his first ever save of his career in his second year with Cincinnati. His third year would see him finish with 38 saves, as he would go on to finish with a 5-5 record. The first time in his career he would put together 5 wins. The only time he would do it in the National League. He would finish with a 1.51 ERA on the season. In the 71 innings he pitched, he allowed 35 hits, which is 36 less hits than innings pitched. He would strike out 122 batters in that span, as that's 51 more strikeouts than innings pitched. That's nearly almost 2 strikeouts per innings pitched. That would be the most strikeouts that Chapman would put together in a season. His ERA plus was at 274, which means it was 174 points higher than the average. His first season, this would be in 2 of his first 3 seasons in the league, he would put together an ERA that would be at least 100 points better than the average pitcher in the National League. Once that 2012 season came to an end, the Reds would end up losing in the National League Division Series to the San Francisco Giants, as in that year, the Giants would go on to win the World Series for the second time in a 3-year span under Bruce Bochy. But of course, that was the last time the Reds had won the NL Central, but not the last time they made the playoffs. His 4th season with the Cincinnati Reds would be his age 25 season in 2013. He would go on to play in 68 games as he finished 55 in a season in which the Cincinnati Reds would go 90-72. They would win 7 less games than the prior year, as they still qualify for the wild card game, which they would end up losing to the Pirates from within their own a team who made it from their own division. Aroldis Chapman would go on to make the All-Star team for the second time in his 4th season. In the 63 games he played, he would go on to finish with 38 saves, which is exactly what he did the prior year. He did it as he finished 3 more games in the prior year. He would finish with a 4-5 record. He would finish with a 2.54 ERA. In those 63 innings he pitched, he would allow 37 hits in the entire year, as of course that is 26 less hits than innings pitched on the entire year. He would strike out 112 batters. This would be 49 more strikeouts than innings pitched on the season. This would be the second year in a row that he would put up 100 strikeouts in a season as a relief pitcher, which is an incredibly tough feat to do, considering you only get so many innings throughout a season, and he did so in not even more than 70 innings pitched. Once the season came to an end, like I said, the Reds would miss the playoffs, and this would transition into Aroldis Chapman's 5th season with the Reds. In his age 26 season in 2014, he would go on to play in 54 games and finish 44 for a Cincinnati Reds team that would go 76-86. They would win 14 less games than the prior year, as of course they would miss the playoffs. Chapman would finish with an 0-3 record. This would be the first time in his first 5 years that he would go an entire season without winning a game. This is the only full season to date in which he would not put up a single win. However, he would go on to finish with 36 saves. He would put up at least 35 saves for the 3rd season in a row in the National League, which is of course an incredibly tough feat to do. His 54 innings were the least amount of innings that he's put up in an all-star season, at least at that point. In those 54 innings, he would go on to allow 21 hits. That is 33 less hits than innings pitched on the year. He would go on to strike out 106 batters, which is 52 more strikeouts than innings pitched, nearly doubling his output, as his efficiency that year was incredible. He would go on to finish with an ERA plus of 185, meaning it was 85 points better than the average pitcher. His ERA was better than the average for all of his first 5 seasons, as of course within this year he would show that he was far above. He would go on to be an all-star for the 3rd time in his 5th year in the league, despite not putting up a single win, and even though the Reds would not make the playoffs at all. That, of course, would transition into the 4th year of his all-star run in his 6th season with the Cincinnati Reds, in his age 27 season in 2015, and his last full season in Cincinnati. He would go on to make 65 appearances, finishing 54 games for his Cincinnati Reds team that went 64-98. They won 12 less games than the prior season, as that is actually the lowest win percentage they've put up since 2015. They have not put up a record that low, I guess, since that record, I guess is what I'm trying to say. In that season, he would go on to be named an all-star for the 4th year in a row in his first 6 seasons, as that was, of course, many people would highlight this 4-year stretch as the most elite stretch of Aroldis Chapman's career. In this 2015 season, his age 27 year, he would go on to put up a 1.63 ERA. The 2nd time in his career, his ERA would be below 2, and of course, the 5th time in his first 6 years, he'll be below 3. In the 66 innings he pitched, he would finish with 33 saves. That would be the 4th time in a row that he had at least 30 saves in a year. He would finish with 43 hits, which is 23 less hits than innings pitched. He would finish with 116 strikeouts in those 66 innings. That's 50 more strikeouts than innings pitched. This would be the 4th year in a row that he would put up 100 strikeouts in a season. He has not put up 100 strikeouts in a season since 2015. However, by the end of that season, I would imagine he's gone down as a Cincinnati Reds grade in some form or fashion. But of course, following that 2015 season, he would go on to be picked up by the New York Yankees, as the New York Yankees would go on to trade for him. But he would go on to play only the first half of the 2016 season for the Yankees after being a 4-time All-Star with the Reds. His age 28 season would see him make 31 appearances for the Yankees and then 28 appearances for the Chicago Cubs. For the Yankees, he would make 31 appearances, making 20 saves, as in those 31 innings pitched, he would have 20 hits allowed, which is 11 less hits than innings pitched. He would then go on to finish with 44 strikeouts, which is 13 more strikeouts than innings pitched. So he was, of course, maintaining that ratio in the American League. He would then, of course, get traded to the Chicago Cubs for Gleyber Torres, who is now an elite player for them. They got traded for Billy McKinney and Adam Warren, is also Rashard Crawford. But, of course, after making that trade, getting moved, finishing that season for the Cubs, he would make 28 appearances, finishing 23 games, finishing with 16 saves on the year, combining for 36 at the end of the year. He would put together, in the 26 innings he pitched for Chicago, he would allow 12 hits, which is 14 less hits than innings pitched, which is, less than half, of course. He would go on to strike out 46 batters, which is 20 more strikeouts than innings pitched, which is almost double what he did. So combined on the year, while maintaining the ratio in both the American League and the MVP and somehow avoiding the All-Star bid, he would go on to finish with a 4-1 record, finishing with a 1.55 ERA on the entire year, making it 3 of his first 7 seasons in the league that he had an ERA below 2. And I guess 4 if you want to say 2 or below. In that season, in the 58 innings he pitched, he would finish with 36 saves. That would, of course, be the 5th season in a row that he had at least 30 saves. He had 32 hits in those 58 innings, which is 26 less hits than innings pitched. He would go on to finish with 90 strikeouts on the year, which is, of course, 32 more strikeouts than innings pitched on the year. Once that 2016 season came to an end, he would help the Chicago Cubs make it to the playoffs, as they would go on to win the World Series for the very first time since 1908, ending their 100-year World Series drought. In this World Series path, before that, they would see Chris Bryant win the MVP, by the way. They would beat the San Francisco Giants, who, of course, were a dynasty in the National League. They beat the Giants 3-1. They would end up beating the Los Angeles Dodgers, who of course were the National League West dynasty. They beat them in 6 games. And in the World Series, they would beat the Cleveland Indians 4-3, as of course that was what the Guardians were called in 2016. But of course, that is how Aroldis Chapman would go on to get his lone championship with the Chicago Cubs, after literally only playing there for the second half of the year. In that World Series, he would pitch 7 innings, as he would allow only 5 hits in those innings, striking out 11. He would go on to finish with a 3.52 ERA, as he did go on to finish picking up a win, and he did go on to earn his championship ring. But following that 2016 season, he would go on to sign a 5-year, $86 million contract to return to the Yankees on his own terms. It was the largest contract given to a relief pitcher as of that time when he signed. In that 2016, or I guess in that 2017 season, which would be his age 28, or his age in the 2017 season, which would be his age 29 season, he would go on to make 52 appearances. He would go on to finish exactly 42 games in a season in which the New York Yankees would finish with a 91-71 record. They would win 7 more games than the prior year, as they would make the playoffs. 2017 is also the year that Aaron Judge would be the Rookie of the Year for the New York Yankees. But in that 2017 season, Aroldis Chapman would go on and finish with a 4-3 record as a relief pitcher. He would finish with a 3.22 ERA, as this was his first season in the American League. This would be his highest, I guess would be his second highest ERA that he put up in a season up until that point. In that year, he would pitch 50 innings, as he would finish with 22 saves on the year. He would finish allowing 37 hits on the year in those 50 innings, which is 13 less hits than innings pitched. He would strike out 69 batters, which is 19 more strikeouts than innings pitched, as of course he was a player that's maintained that ratio the entire time. And of course, following this 2017 season, he would go on and help the New York Yankees make the playoffs, as in that playoffs, they would go on and beat the Twins in the wild card series. They would beat the Cleveland Indians in 5 in the division series, 3-2, before eventually losing in the championship series to the Houston Astros. The Astros would be the team that made it out of the American League and won the World Series this year. That, of course, would transition into Chapman's second season in New York. In his age 30 season in 2018, which was his 9th season in the MLB, he would go on to make 55 appearances and finish 43 games for a New York Yankees team that went 162. They would go on to finish with 9 more wins than the prior season. This would be the first time since their World Series run in 2009 that they finished with at least 100 wins in a season. In that 2018 season, Aroldis Chapman would go on to finish with a 2.45 ERA alongside a 3-0 record as a relief pitcher. In the 51.1 innings he pitched, which was about on par with what he did the year before, his 32 saves would be the first time he had at least 30 saves in the American League. It would be the 6th time that he would do so in a 7-year stretch in the MLB. In those 51 innings, he allowed 24 hits. That is 27 less hits than innings pitched. He would go on and strike out 93 batters. His 93 batters would be the first time that he would finish with 90 strikeouts in the American League. As of course you understand that, like, with the American League batting lineups, there is a difference between the American League and the National League, so that is impressive on that end. His 93 strikeouts are 42 more strikeouts than innings pitched. In 2018, he was named an All-Star from the American League side for the first time in his career. At this time, he was a 5-time All-Star entering his 30s. Once the 2018 season came to an end, the New York Yankees would end up beating the Oakland Athletics in the wild card round, as they would end up losing in the ALDS to the the Red Sox, as the Red Sox ended up winning the World Series, beating the Dodgers in 2018. That, of course, would transition into Chapman's third season in New York, in his 10th season in the league, in his age 31 season in 2019 with the New York Yankees. He would go on to make 60 appearances he would go on to finish 53 games in a season in which the New York Yankees would end up going 103-59. They would go on to win the American League East for the first time since 2012, the first and only time since Aroldis Chapman has been there. In this 103-win season, of course, the last time they won 103 was in 2009. Aroldis Chapman himself would go on to be named not only an All-Star for the second year in a row, he would go on to be named to the All-MLB second team as the American League Reliever of the Year. This is the only time he's been named the Reliever of the Year. He would go on to pitch 57 innings as he picked up 37 saves. This would be the second year in a row. This would, of course, be the 7th year in an 8-year stretch in which he's finished with at least 30 saves in a year, as his 37 are the most that he's put up in the American League. He would finish allowing 38 hits in the 57 innings he pitched, which is 19 less hits than innings pitched. He would strike out 85 batters. That is 28 more strikeouts than innings. And of course, once that season came to an end, his ERA plus was, of course, at 172. That's 72 points better than the average pitcher in the American League. I'm looking at the wrong one. It was sitting at 202. It was 102 points better than the average pitcher in the American League, which is the highest that it has been since he's been in the American League. Following his second straight All-Star bid in the American League, the New York Yankees would, of course, try to make a run at the World Series. They would end up sweeping the Minnesota Twins in the divisional series. They would end up losing in the championship series to the Houston Astros, as the Astros ended up losing in the World Series to the Washington Nationals. Following that season, that, of course, would lead to Aroldis Chapman's 4th season with the Yankees, and that would be his 11th season in the league. And in his age 32 season in 2020, he would go on and make 13 appearances for the New York Yankees in a shortened season because of COVID. And in this season, the New York Yankees would end up going 33-27, finishing with the second best record in their division, I believe, to the Tampa Bay Rays. As in this season, Chapman would go on to pitch 11 whole innings. He would go on to finish 8 games as he picked up 3 saves. He would allow 6 hits in the 11 innings he pitched, as he would strike out 22. That's 5 less hits than innings, and that would be nearly double the strikeouts than that would be double the strikeouts than as complete innings pitched. Additionally, within that span, he would pick up a 1-1 record as he held a 3.09 ERA. As of course, he didn't get more than a full MLB game of relief pitching in. He didn't get that much more. The New York Yankees would end up making it through the wild card round as they would beat the Cleveland Indians 2-0. They would end up losing in the American League Division Series against the Tampa Bay Rays, as the Rays would make it to the World Series to end up losing to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Following that season, Aroldis Chapman would, of course, return to the New York Yankees for his age 33 season. In his 12th season there, he would go on to be named an All-Star in the American League for the 3rd time in his first 5 years there, and be an All-Star in the MLB for the 7th time in his first 12 years. In this most recent full season with the Yankees, he would make 61 appearances, finishing 46 games for a New York Yankees team that went 92-70. Compared to their last full season, in which they won the AL East, they won 11 less games. They finished with the 3rd best record in the American League East. They would end up getting the doors shut on them in the wild card by the Boston Red Sox. However, Aroldis Chapman would end up making, in those 61 appearances, he would go and finish with a 6-4 record. His 6 wins are the most wins that he's ever put together in an MLB season. His 3.36 ERA would be the highest ERA that he's put together as a relief pitcher since his second year in the league in Cincinnati in 2011, 10 years ago. or 10 years prior. In those 56 innings, he would collect 30 saves. This would be the last season to date in which he's picked up 30 saves in his career. Of course, this was the last full season he's played. This is the 8th time that he has done so in the last 10 years, just to give you a sense of how amazing that consistency is. He would go on to allow 36 hits in the 56 innings he pitched. That's 20 less hits than innings. He would strike out 97 batters in those 56 innings, as he had 41 more strikeouts than innings. He, of course, was able to maintain that ratio for this would be now the 12th year in a row, every single year he's been in the league. He would, of course, be named an All-Star, and after being named an All-Star for the 7th time, the 3rd time in a 4-year stretch for the Yankees, the Yankees would end up losing in the American League wild card to the Red Sox, as that is the last time the Yankees have made a playoff appearance. That, of course, transitions into this season as Aroldis Chapman, at this very point in time, just missed the All-Star cutoff. Right now, he hasn't had the best start to the season as he would hope. So far, he's made 23 appearances, finishing 15 games for a New York Yankees team that is currently holding on to the best record in the AL East. They sit 12 games ahead of the second-place Rays in their division, they even sit ahead of the second-place LA Dodgers, who hold the best records in the National League. So that is what's going on there with that team. But Aroldis Chapman is holding an 0-3 record alongside a 4.74 ERA. In the 19 innings he's pitched, he's allowed 15 hits, which is 4 less hits than innings pitched. He struck out 21 batters, which is 2 more strikeouts than innings pitched. He has been able to maintain that ratio, as of course he actually is kind of laboring for it this year. But that is where we are at this snapshot of the year, as of course he very well could turn around. His 19 innings pitched is just barely more than 2 whole games of innings pitched, just to give you a sense of how short his how short his measuring span, how short of a time frame that is. But just to give you a sense of what's going on there, that is where we are at this point in the year, as Aroldis Chapman is currently 34. He's wearing number 54 for the New York Yankees, and by this time next year, or by his birthday in February, he very well could be holding up another World Series, as he really knows how to get it done in very big moments. And I know that he's a player that's shown year in, year out that when you put him in specific innings, he will do the job that is asked of him. And I want to thank everyone for listening to this piece. I do hope all is well. And I do want to apologize to everyone for not getting the audio from the exact date, but of course getting it later. I now have more stats and data. Next time I will try to get it on his birthday. And I do want to thank the MLB and ESPN sites for giving me the facts and figures as well. With that said, I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well. Thanks for listening to my piece, and peace out. I'm James Sims, and this is The Elite.